Today we're going to talk about calculating return on investment because, let's face it, this isn't just something that you would do in one aspect of your farming. It's something you should do with everything that you're looking at out on the farm, with every input that you put into each field. You really need to know what kind of return on investment you should expect.
All right, there are a lot of different ways to figure return on investment. So we'll give you just a couple simple examples. And please don't misunderstand. We realize that as a farmer, you already have to know economics pretty well. However, we just want to talk through some of the different ways you can look at return on investment on your farm. So just as a very simple basic thing, let's say there was something that cost you $5, but it pays $15. All right, so you can simply divide the one by the other. You can say, oh, it's a 3-to-1 return on investment, but what we always like to look at it is, what's the net return on investment? So to get the net, you have to subtract off what you spent. So if you gained 15, but you spent 5, that's a gain of $10. So your net return on investment, dividing 10 by 5 and multiplying times 100 is going to be 200% net return on investment. But if, let's say, you only had to invest the money for 6 months, well, now in effect you have to double that if we're looking at APR, net return on investment. So your 200% all of a sudden becomes 400%. And what I always like to say to people is, let's not forget, if you took money and put it in the bank today, you're probably only going to get 1 or 2%. That's it. So if there's something on the farm that you can get 100%, 200%, even like I'm talking about 400% on a net ROI APR basis, that's awesome. Those are the things you've got to really look for.
Well, I think the big thing too is you have to remember you do have some risk here. You're putting a crop out. You really don't know what's going to happen during the season. So will that choice that you made, that you say, well, hey, on average, this gives me a 100% return, a 200% return. When do I say, you know what, this outweighs the risk that I've got? Normally on our farm, we'll look at things and say, if it's got a 2-to-1 payback, if I can invest 5 and get 10 back, hey, that's a good thing for me. I should be doing that. And what we see across the country is normally, if we get a 2-to-1 payback, we're getting about 50% of farmers to say, yeah, that's good enough. I'll adopt this new practice. But if we get a 3-to-1 return on investment, now 75% of farmers feel, hey, that's enough of a return on investment that I'm going to try the new thing. So even the guys that are really conservative and really nervous about anything new, if you're getting a 3-to-1, it's just about a no-brainer for those guys to take it. So that's one good way to look at this. The other way that we look at return on investment a lot is in terms of, what is that going to pay me per hour of my labor?
When Darren and I were growing up on the farm, our dad always used to tell us, boys, if you want to be successful on the farm someday, you got to try to find jobs that'll pay you $100 an hour or more and do those jobs yourself and pay somebody else to do the $5 an hour jobs. Well, when you start running the numbers and you say, okay, let's say that it is something that I can get a return of whatever, $5 per acre, but boy, I could spray 100 acres in an hour. I could spray 40 acres in an hour. And then what's my cost to do the spraying? All these different things. Well, pretty soon you start running the math and you go, oh, okay, hey, I can gain $300. I spend $200. That means I gain $100 for every hour I work? Yep, that very well might be. So our point is, you want to take a look at return on investment and use the simple math that any banker is going to talk to you about on that ROI, on an APR, net return on investment, all those types of things. Look at your ratios, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, for me, I'm looking at how much does each particular job pay. And let me also say, I'm married, you might be married. Sometimes your wife or your husband asks you to do some job that, you know what, even though it might not pay you more than $5 an hour, the net return is going to be tremendous, okay? So sometimes there are jobs you absolutely have to do on the farm that aren't the greatest, they aren't the most glamorous, they don't pay you the most per hour, but as much as you can, do those $100, $200, $300 an hour jobs yourself. I think about field scouting, doing your own tiling, doing your own spraying. I mean, just so many different things. Run the numbers, not only for that net return, but also how much does that job pay you per hour.
Hey, the last thing I want to say about calculating return on investment is you have to do this every year. You can't just say, well, you know what, spraying that post-emerge fungicide, I don't know if that return was great last year. Guess what? Fungicide prices came down. and they came down each of the last couple of years. All of a sudden, something that we thought, I don't know if the return on investment is quite big enough for me to do it. Now it's, wow, that price got cut in half. All of a sudden, yeah, this is a great return on investment for me. So things that really paid well last year, if the prices went way up and the commodity prices came way down, well, it may not pay for you to do that again. So you do have to run this with every input that you're going to make throughout the season.
Well, once again, we just really encourage you, run the actual numbers for almost anything you're going to do on your farm. And if it's something you're planning to do every year, like I take seed treatment, for example, you got to look at what's the average return rather than saying, well, this year I gained nothing, but you know what? A year ago I gained 8 bushels. Well, I got nothing this year, so I think I'm just going to drop it. No, look at what the average is over time on a lot of these things.
Well, calculating return on investment is important, but no matter what, you have to stop our Weed of the Week. We'll show you how to do it coming up later in the show.